June 1942. Somewhere outside Kharkov, Eastern Front, the smell of diesel and burnt rubber hung heavy in the air. Lieutenant Carl Fischer of the 11th Panzer Division peered through his binoculars, the glass trembling slightly in his hands. Across the scorched wheat fields, a new kind of tank lumbered into view. Boxy, high-sided, its turret oddly small for its frame. He lowered the binoculars, smirking.
Fire when ready.
Amerikanische Panzer, he said, turning to his crew. They look like tractors with guns. The crew laughed. Even the driver, a quiet Bavarian named Mertz, managed to chuckle. If this is what the Americans send to help the Russians, we'll burn them by the dozen. Through the gun sight of his Panzer IV, Fischer watched the first Sherman, an early M4A1 model supplied to the Soviets through Lend-Lease, crawl awkwardly. Its tracks churned up mud, its 75mm gun scanning left and right as if lost. Fire, Fischer ordered. The German tank roared to life. A flash, a thunderclap, and the round struck home. The Sherman exploded in a plume of black smoke, the turret lifting slightly before crashing back into the hull. Another followed. Same result. And another. By sundown, the field was littered with burning hulks. Later that evening, as Fischer cleaned his pistol beside the tank, he muttered, "The Allies must be desperate. They build tanks out of tin." Word spread quickly through the ranks. The new American machines were tall, thinly armored, and easy to hit. They burned like paper when struck by German 75mm and 88mm guns. Commanders mocked them openly in mess halls. Shermans? One officer scoffed.
And the Sherman just
a good target,
stopped dead.
nothing more. But what none of them realized, not
You
Fischer,
should have seen
not his
the look on
commanders,
their faces.
not even
Panzer
Berlin's
Grenadiers.
intelligence officers, was that they hadn't seen the whole picture. Far across the Atlantic, in factories from
They
Detroit to
build
Cleveland,
tanks out of
in
tin.
shipyards, and steel mills that never slept. America was building something Germany could not: scale. The laughter on the Eastern Front would not last. June
Хорошая
1944. Normandy, France.
Но
The
не
hedgerows
более
were
того.
alive with sound. Diesel engines growled beneath the morning fog.
Look
The
at
air
that
thick with
Sherman
the metallic scent of
burn.
oil and the acrid sting of cordite. From his command post near St. Lo, Oberst
stand
Carl
no
Fischer,
chance against
now a
us.
seasoned tank commander with the 2nd Panzer Division, adjusted his field glasses and froze. What he saw rolling across the fields made his stomach tighten. Shermans, dozens of them. They came not as scattered curiosities, but as a swarm. Olive drab silhouettes cresting the hills like waves of an armored tide. Their white star insignias flashed briefly in the mist, glints of sunlight dancing off their rounded turrets. Fischer exhaled sharply. Mein Gott. His adjutant, Lieutenant Vogel, stepped up beside him. They're everywhere, Herr Oberst. We've counted at least 40 in the sector alone. 40? Fischer murmured, still staring through his binoculars. No, there are more. Down below, in the bocage maze of Normandy, the 3rd Armored Division was on the move. The Spearhead Division, supported by British and Canadian armored brigades, pressed relentlessly inland. Shermans of every variant advanced together. Standard M4s with 75mm guns, the newer M4A3s, and British modified Fireflies carrying the deadly 17-pounder capable of piercing even a Tiger's frontal armor. Their engines droned in unison, a mechanical heartbeat that echoed through the French countryside. "Tank front!" shouted one German gunner. The 88mm barked. A Sherman erupted in flames, its crew scrambling from the hatch. Seconds later, 3 more emerged from behind the hedgerows. Their guns elevated. Their machine guns raked the German positions. The Panzer's radio crackled with
Watch
frantic
the
chatter.
cables. Bring it down
They just keep coming,
We
someone
need that secured before
We knock
the
one down.
next tide.
3 replace it. Inside his turret, Fischer's driver cursed. Where are they getting all these machines? Fischer didn't answer. He was thinking back to Kharkov, to the laughter, the arrogance. Back then, the Shermans had seemed clumsy, naive, almost harmless. Now, they were multiplying like a living organism, filling the valleys, clogging the roads, climbing
Rows
the
of
hills.
Shermans
Everywhere
crest
he
a
looked,
hill.
there was
Olive
another.
drab
That
shapes
night,
emerging
as darkness
from
fell
fog.
over the smoldering ruins
Their
of
white
St. Lo,
stars flash
Fisher's unit
briefly as
regrouped.
sunlight breaks through the clouds.
Their fuel was low, their numbers thinner. The Panzers were still formidable, faster, better
Melden
armored,
Sie die
better
Position
gunned.
an das Hauptquartier.
But they were few, and each loss hurt like a wound that couldn't heal. One mechanic summed it up best, his voice tired and hollow. Every time we destroy one, the Americans build 10 more. He wasn't exaggerating. Back home, U.S. factories were producing nearly 2,000 Shermans every month. In Detroit alone, entire assembly lines were dedicated to the tank. Ford, Chrysler, Fisher Body. Women in factory coveralls worked day and night, welding hulls and riveting armor. What Germany built in months, America replaced in weeks. To the Germans, this was an incomprehensible advantage. Fisher sat by the dim light of a kerosene lamp, writing in his field diary. Each Sherman is inferior to our Tiger, yes, but there are too many to kill. They come from the sea, from the air, from the urgency. It is no longer war between men. It is war between industries. The next morning, Allied air power arrived. P-47 Thunderbolts swept low over the roads, strafing German convoys. Behind them came columns of Shermans, rolling forward under clouds of dust and smoke, their engines roaring like the sound of inevitability. Vogel ducked as another explosion rocked the command trench. Herr Oberst, we have to pull back. They're surrounding us. Fisher looked once more through his binoculars.
They hit us hard.
The sight was
We're
surreal.
taking heavy
Rows of
casualties on the
Shermans
western
stretching
line.
beyond the horizon,
Send help
advancing
immediately.
steadily
Vogel
despite the
to
losses.
command. Send
For the
help.
first time, the veteran officer whispered something he'd never imagined saying. We cannot stop them. He turned to his men and gave the order. Fall back to the forest line. Save what fuel you can. As the Panzer engines growled to life,
Fire!
Fisher looked back one last time. The Shermans kept coming, burning, advancing, burning again, but never stopping. They weren't beautiful machines. They weren't elegant or invincible, but they were everywhere. And in that endless sea of olive steel, the laughter of 1942 finally died. December 1944, Ardennes Forest, Belgium. Snow fell silently across the frozen pines. The wind carried the faint growl of engines, muffled beneath the canopy. Somewhere in the distance, artillery thundered.
Every time we
Battle
destroy
of the Bulge
one, they build 10
Oberst
more.
Karl Fischer crouched beside the smoking wreck of a Panzer IV, his breath turning to mist in the cold. Around him, the remnants of his battalion dug into the icy ground. Their tanks were few now, maybe 10 still operational. Their supplies running thin. The once proud iron spear of the Wehrmacht had been dulled by attrition, fuel shortages, and the unrelenting tide of Allied armor. Fuel trucks hit again this morning.
Lower it
Vogel
easy
reported
now.
grimly, clutching his overcoat
Watch
against
the
the wind.
line.
2 kilometers back. We barely
All right,
have enough left to
secure it
move these
tight.
machines. Fisher didn't respond. He was staring through the snow, listening, and then he heard it. A low, distant rumble. Engines, dozens of them. Moments later, through the trees, shadows appeared. Shermans. Entire columns of them, their silhouettes ghost-like in the blizzard. Their whitewashed hulls blended perfectly with the snow. They weren't elegant. They weren't silent. But they were unstoppable. Fire! Fisher shouted. His remaining panzers roared to life, cannons barking through the storm. A Sherman at the front of the line burst into flames, but the rest kept coming. The snow was alive with motion. Tank treads grinding over ice, machine guns spitting tracer rounds, men shouting above the storm. Fisher watched in disbelief. For every Sherman his gunners destroyed, 3 more emerged from the white veil, pushing forward with mechanical persistence. The radio crackled with panicked voices. Zane Sherman's approaching from the west, another voice screamed. We can't stop them. Fisher slammed his fist against the turret. We need air support, but the Luftwaffe was gone. Grounded by lack of fuel, shattered by months of Allied bombing. And above the snow clouds, American P-47s began circling like
Fuel
hawks.
trucks destroyed.
Within
Hell
minutes,
bust.
the forest erupted in explosions as rockets streaked down into German positions. Fischer's tank lurched backward, smoke filling the interior. His driver coughed violently, shouting, "We've lost the tread. Abandon it," Fischer ordered, kicking the hatch open. He climbed out into the snow, blinking against the wind and chaos. Before him stretched a vision of modern war. Shermans advancing in perfect coordination, engineers following with bulldozers and trucks, infantry hitching rides on the back decks. It was no longer just tanks fighting tanks. It was an entire machine of war. Logistics, mobility, replacement, and relentless production all synchronized. Nearby, a Tiger tank, one of the last in their formation, fired a single, deafening shot, destroying an advancing Sherman.
Fire!
The German crew cheered. But moments later, 6 more appeared from behind the wreck. The Tiger's guns swiveled too slowly. A shell from a Sherman Firefly struck it square in the side. The explosion tore through the white landscape, leaving only twisted black steel. Fischer sank to his knees in the snow. Around him, the battlefield glowed orange with burning fuel, the smoke mixing with snowflakes. He looked at Vogel, who stood beside him, face pale. "We used to laugh at them," Fischer said quietly. "No," Vogel nodded. "They don't stop, their
Fire,
Ubers.
gunner!
Even when they burn, they don't stop." All around them, the Shermans continued their advance. Some were crippled, some burning, but the column pressed on,
Das Panzer
always
brennt!
forward, always replenished. That night, Fischer's surviving men retreated deeper into the forest. They trudged through waist-deep snow, the sound of engines still droning in the distance, like the heartbeat of an empire. He looked back one last time. The flickering glow of hundreds of tank fires lit the horizon, and above them, the faint outlines of more Shermans poured down the road from the west. They came from Normandy, from Cherbourg, from the ports of Antwerp, an iron river that never stopped flowing. He thought of Germany's dwindling factories, the empty fuel depots,
We've lost
the bombed
the tread!
railways, the shattered cities.
Ah!
His nation could barely produce 50 tanks a month now. The Americans, by contrast, were producing hundreds every week, faster than the Germans could destroy them. Fischer tightened his scarf against the cold, whispering into the wind. "It's not their guns that defeat us, it's their factories." By dawn, the blizzard had passed. The sky cleared to reveal columns of smoke curling over the ruined forest. In the distance, Shermans moved like green ghosts across the snow, their tracks carving the future into the frozen earth. Germany still had its Tigers, powerful, feared, legendary. But America had the flood, and the flood was rising. April 1945, Western Germany near the Rhine. The war was ending, though no one dared say it aloud. The thunder of artillery had moved eastward, chasing the last remnants of the Wehrmacht toward the collapsing heart of the Reich. The once proud Panzer
They don't
divisions,
stop.
the spear tip of Hitler's war machine,
Even when they
now
burn, they
limped on
don't
fumes,
Don't
scattered and
stop.
broken. Oberst Karl Fischer sat inside the gutted shell of what had once been a Panzer Command truck. The smell of smoke, mud, and burnt oil filled the air. Around him, the survivors of his unit huddled in silence, the distant rumble of tanks growing louder by the minute. He knew that sound by heart now. It was the heartbeat of defeat, the low, steady rumble of M4 Shermans rolling closer. Fischer stepped out into the gray morning. The sky hung low and heavy, streaked with ash. The road ahead stretched into the mist, lined with the wrecks of panzers, half-tracks, and supply wagons abandoned in haste. Along the roadside, civilians trudged eastward, pushing carts, eyes hollow with exhaustion. Through the haze, he saw them. A column of Shermans advancing steadily down the road, their engines growling in perfect rhythm. Some bore chalk markings, 4th Armored, Thunderbolts, Victory. Others carried soldiers perched casually on the hulls, rifles slung, helmets tilted. To Fischer, they looked less like tanks and more like a moving factory. Self-sufficient, mechanical, unstoppable. He turned to Vogel, who stood beside a scorched field gun. Do you remember 1942? When we laughed at these things? Vogel gave a weary smile. Yes, Herr Oberst. We said they looked like toys. Fisher nodded slowly. Now the toys have taken the continent. The Shermans rolled past a line of ruined farmhouses, their treads clanking over broken masonry. Behind them came the trucks, endless convoys hauling fuel, food, ammunition, even portable bridges. Engineers followed with bulldozers, clearing debris before the next wave of armor arrived. This was no longer the battlefield of the early war, where a single Tiger could dominate an entire front. This was an assembly line on wheels, and it was devouring everything in its path. A captured Panzer mechanic, now pressed into Allied labor, once described it best. The Americans fight
Do you
like
remember
they build cars.
1942?
Steady, efficient, without emotion. Lose one, replace it. Keep the line moving. By 1945, the U.S.
Now the
Army had built over
toys have taken the
49,000
continent.
Shermans, enough to replace every tank in Germany's arsenal 5 times over. The Allies didn't rely on individual superiority.
Keep it
They relied
moving.
on
Push her
endurance.
forward.
And endurance
Watch
had
the
won.
rollers
Fisher
on the
watched
left
as one
side.
Sherman stopped near a destroyed
Clear
bridge.
that debris now.
Its crew jumped out,
need the next
laughing,
section ready.
joking, as engineers began deploying a portable span across the river. Within an hour, more armor was crossing. Trucks followed. Jeeps, half-tracks. The whole machine of war in motion. He looked down at his boots, caked in mud, and felt a strange calm. We built fear, he said softly. They built momentum. Nearby, a wounded German lieutenant limped toward him, bandaged arm pressed to his chest. Herr Oberst, he said breathlessly. Orders from Corps Command. We're to surrender to the Americans.
Colonel Fisher,
They'll treat us fairly.
it is my
Fisher
duty
stared
to
at the man
inform
for a
you
long
that
moment.
all forces in this
Then he gave a
sector
faint,
agree to the
tired
unconditional surrender.
Yes,
The papers
he
are
said
in order.
quietly. I believe they will. The rumble of engines grew louder as the column approached. Shermans lined the ridge, their silhouettes framed against the rising sun. Some still bore battle scars, bullet holes patched with welded plates, spare treads bolted to their sides. They were crude, imperfect, and utterly indomitable. One
Keep
by
your
one,
eyes on
German
them.
soldiers stepped
Don't
from the tree
lower
line,
your weapons.
laying down their weapons. White cloths fluttered from rifle barrels. The Americans watched warily, but did not fire. A U.S. officer climbed from his jeep and waved for the prisoners to approach. Fisher hesitated. Then, slowly, he raised his hands. The war that had begun with roaring victories ended here, quietly, in the mud beside a road paved by American steel. As he was led past the convoy, Fisher studied the tanks closely. The grease-stained
Don't
armor,
fail us now.
the fuel drums lashed to their rears, the crew's names painted on the hulls. Lucky Lady, Chicago Belle, Rolling Thunder. He touched
And
the
then he
side of one
says,
as he passed.
That's not my
The
helmet.
metal was warm from the engine's heat. Inside, he heard laughter.
You're kidding me,
Easy,
Joe. That's
unforced,
a good one.
human, the same sound, he thought bitterly. That had once
They
come
never
from his
built
own
the
men
Sherman
when
to
they
win a
mocked these
duel.
machines. He turned to
Then
Vogel.
what was it built for?
Do you know what's strange?
To never
What, Herr
stop.
Oberst? I think they never built the Sherman to win a duel. Then what was it built for? Fisher looked down the road at the endless stream of vehicles vanishing into the horizon. To never stop. That night, the sky glowed orange as Allied flares lit the valley. Columns of Shermans continued east toward the Rhine, their tracks grinding softly over the ruined roads of the Reich. And behind them, Carl Fischer sat in silence, listening to the sound of victory. Not the roar of a single mighty tank, but the steady, relentless hum of thousands. The laughter of 1942 was long gone. In its place was understanding. Power, he realized, didn't belong to the strongest machine. It belonged to the one that never ran out. June 1942. Somewhere outside Kharkov,